everyone, my name is Danielle and welcome to another episode of Board Game Bakes. In case you're new here, in this show I take board games and I turn them into delicious creations. This week we're going to focus on Four Gardens by Arcane Wonders. And when I first saw this game at Gen Con, I was instantly drawn to it because it has this beautiful pagoda, which is a very essential part of the game. But instead of using the pagoda, we're going to make a cake pagoda, because why not? And I had to do some engineering to make a cake stand, so this way we could have 4 different layers of cake that could theoretically spin around. We're going to make castella, which is a cake that's more traditional to Japan, but untraditionally we're going to layer it and have some whipped cream frosting and freeze-dried strawberries. And then to make our roofs, we're going to use Rice Krispies. Let's get started. Let's start 2022 off right with a fun cake. I decided to try an Asian-style cake by making castella cake the base. This is usually thicker and eaten plain, but we're turning it into a stacked cake. To begin, make sure your pan is prepped by lining it with parchment paper, and you may want to paint the sides with a brush to make sure it's evenly applied. A 12 by 12 inch pan was used for this recipe. Mix 6 large eggs at room temperature. Once the yolks are broken, add in 1 cup of sugar. Set this on high speed. That's right, put the mixer up to 8 or 10 for 5 minutes or until it has quadrupled in volume. It got a little bumpy on my island. While it mixes, sift 1 2/3 cup of bread, not all purpose, you need bread flour, twice to make sure it's nice and airy. You can also mix 1½ tablespoons of warm water and 1/3 cup of honey. Once your egg mixture is light and fluffy, and it'll be like a pale yellow, add the honey mixture and mix on low speed until combined. Then add the bread flour in 3 batches. You should only need to mix on low 15 or so seconds after each addition until it's incorporated, because it's a very liquidy batter. Mix a little longer at the end to make sure it's combined, but do not overmix. Pour into the prepared pan. Use a skewer or toothpick to make zigzags to get rid of the bubbles. Also drop the pan a few times to make any additional air bubbles escape. I used it on a towel to make sure I didn't wake up my daughter. Bake at 320 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty low, for 30 to 35 minutes. And it's a little less than you would for a traditional one because this is a larger pan. When it feels spongy, you could turn off the oven and let it cool with the door open until the sponge pulls away from the edges. While it's still warm, brush it with a mixture of 1 tablespoon honey and 1/2 tablespoon of warm water. Cut the cake into 9 pieces and wrap each piece in plastic wrap while it's warm, which you usually don't do. Usually you let it cool on the counter completely, but for this cake, while it's warm, we're going to wrap it up to keep all the moisture in. Let it cool upside down in the fridge for 12 hours. Now it's trying to work on the roof. My roof is done with a half batch of Rice Krispies, but if I recreate these, I would go the full batch so you have more wiggle room. Cut the Rice Krispies into 4 pieces. Use a serrated knife to give the roof some slant, and you could also use your hands to mold it into the right shape. Roll out some blue fondant to 1/8 of an inch thickness. Put some water on your finger and dab the roof so the fondant will stick. You also want to use a circle cookie cutter to put a hole in 3 of the 4, so leave 1 without a hole in it for the pole to go through. To get the additional decorations, you're going to trace the resources in the game, so the water, wood, grass, and stone, and use the stencils for each of these to cut out 6 of the resources in their respective colors. Use a little water to stick the resources onto the roof to match the game's pagoda. Grab a blue edible marker to add tile lines onto the roof. Finally, cut some dark blue rectangles and attach them to the corner of the roofs. Wrap some dark blue fondant around a toothpick so this way you have the piece for the top. And your roof things are complete. Happy New Year! Are you new to my channel? Make sure that you hit subscribe and ring that bell. Thanks! For the icing, I wanted to maintain a less sweet flavor profile, so we're going with a sturdy whipped cream frosting. Mix 8 ounces of cream cheese at room temperature, 1/2 cup of sugar, and 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract on medium speed until smooth. This may take longer than you think since cream cheese likes to stay lumpy and sometimes it just doesn't want to get smooth. Slowly add 2 cups of heavy cream and mix and mix and mix until stiff peaks form. Put it in a piping bag or gallon Ziploc bag if you're out to make icing easier. For the actual cake part, you'll need 3 wood or sturdy cardboard slabs that can rest onto the cake stand. Trace the slab onto parchment paper so that the cake doesn't rest right onto the wood. We'll put the parchment layer in between. Use the cutout to cut the pieces of cake to fit your stand. And when we put the cake together, you're going to use a whole piece on the bottom and cut the second one in half for the top layer, so this way our cake isn't as tall. Use some icing to attach it to the wood and parchment paper. Spread icing on the first layer of cake and sprinkle it some freeze-dried strawberries. Place the top layer of cake on top of that, and then you're going to ice the outside of the cake with the whipped cream frosting and make it as smooth as possible. Let it sit in the fridge to get more firm, and while it's firming up, roll out some red fondant to 1/8 of an inch thickness. Use a rolling pin to set gently onto the cake. Smooth the top down, and then pull gently on the sides and smooth down with your hand so you get smooth edges. I tried wrapping the extra fondant under the wood to hide the base, but this made it more difficult for the cake to turn on the stand. For decorations, cut out some dark blue doors and gray windows. And this was mainly done since it's a little hard to draw on the cake without risking putting holes into the fondant. The moment of truth, or I guess moments of truth. Place the rod through the first cake and into the stand. Put on a roof. Next, repeat it with cake and roof, cake and roof, cake and roof. Use a toothpick to put a hole in the roof and stick in the roof decoration. Ta-da! I'd still play the 1-year game, but this cake definitely has table presents too. Thanks for watching another episode of Board Game Bakes. I hope you enjoyed seeing my tall creation come to life. And the proportions may not entirely be right, but you can't deny that it has table presents too. This may be one that I revisit someday in a revamped way to see if I could get some of the roof to cake to height proportions right. But I think it still turned out well, and it was delicious. What games would you like to see me feature in 2022? Let me know in the comments below, and while you're down there, hit subscribe. Keep playing games and keep them sweet. Bye!